Hi, welcome to All Things Possible. We are so excited to share with you this week the value of touch. I'm Kris.
She's Kris and I'm Bill.
And we love to be able to share with you and to just talk about concepts and content that can help you and have you possibly think of things a little differently. We love to share with you. If you have not joined our community, join at allthingspossible.biz.
Right here. Just see that? Right there.
Right there on the screen, right? Join with us. We have so much content and so much stuff out there, and we love to share that with you and possibly help you through some difficult times or some challenges. We love to teach from the inside out because nothing will change if you don't choose to change yourself.
One thing that we've always, as we work with clients on an individual basis, even as groups and in family dynamics, is taught the importance of touch. And yet, with the world conditions today, touch is discouraged in order to stay safe and keep from contracting and or spreading the virus. And so I think it's more important than ever that we address this subject today.
Right. And we have found that how the effect is going. A few months into this, we're starting to see, I should say a few months, what are we? 5 months now?
Yeah.
Like we're quite a few months into this. We're starting to see the effects on children and going back to school and all of that's happening right now. Compassion is literally at your fingertips. It's found through touch. And as we need compassion right now more than ever, it's showing up in we don't communicate, we aren't looking at each other, we're wearing a mask, covering our face.
Well, one of the most important and poignant things that you just went through, where it was just so significant to see that need for touch, was attending the funeral with your mother to these friends and watching these people interact with these new social rules. And it was just,
right.
it was heart-wrenching. Tell them a little bit about
Yesterday, I went to a funeral with my mother, and it was her best friend. Now, that was the sixth death in like a week and a half, and two of her best friends. But this was her best friend that was like a sister. And as I attended this funeral with her, and yesterday, she will be 80 in October. So the age group is the highest, most critical age group.
They're at high risk. If they get the virus, they're at much higher risk of not surviving the virus.
Right, so they're in a lot of fear. And yet as I watched her, how many classmates do you have that are in their 80s, right? But there was about a dozen different friends, and as I watched them come to interact, they wanted to shake hands, they wanted to hug, but they didn't know what to do. And they just started and stopped or apologized before hugging each other. And it just broke my heart because right now more than ever they need that. In fact, there was 4 or 5 single women that have lost their husbands of many years, and they're alone. They don't get touch at home hardly at all.
And the value of walking up to somebody that's hurting and just giving them a hug, a full-on hug, and just holding them. Now, obviously, we're not advocating that these people should have been hugging and all of this at the funeral. We do have a pandemic going on. It is real. We need to stay safe. But what we're doing is acknowledging the human need for that. And that's the purpose of this
today. There was
today.
such a need. She needed so badly to have hugs and to love on her, right? Because she was just distraught. And we as families have got to step that up. With the people that you're safe with, that you are around, they're not getting touched like they used to outside of those close family members and those people that you're living with and that you're safe with.
So, we have some magic right here in our fingertips. Okay? Tell them about what that magic is.
No, you go ahead and tell them.
The compassion. There's a lot of communication that comes through our fingertips as we just touch.
Yeah, a lot of compassion, a lot of care and concern. And as we have that touch, we have an exchange of energy. So for years we have taught principles to clients. We've one-on-one coached and we've gone through things, and of all the things that we have done, one of the first things that we do, no matter what the situation is, whether it's a relationship through a spouse or a partner, whether it's between a parent and a child that has a difficult relationship and they're not bonding and they're not getting along, whether it's a teenager, doesn't matter.
Well, and even relationships in the workplace.
Yes.
Connection. And the one thing that we've always told them is touch. You just, a hand on the shoulder, a touch on the arm. Not creepy, like, of course.
You can sit by each other and you touch automatically.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell them about some of the studies?
So, wow, one of the first one is very disturbing, but understand this is from the Middle Ages. I don't know, it wasn't necessarily a scientific study, but the King of Germany, King Frederick II, obviously felt that German was the best language, and really believed that even if people didn't grow up hearing German, they would naturally speak German, because that's how he believed this. So to prove his point, he took several babies away from their mothers, placed them in a nursery with nurses to take care of them, and instructed the nurses never to speak in front of these children. And he was going to prove that they would grow up speaking German. But he also told them, don't pick up the babies and interact with them, because I really want to make this a double-blind study or whatever. Well, the study was a failure because each one of these children, because they had no interaction, no one talking to them, no touch, each one of the children died. This was back in the early 1200s. And there has been many much more scientific, and that's just a sad thing, but it's a real part of history. There's been a lot of scientific studies. One dictator, Ceausescu, I believe that's how you say his name, in Romania, fell out of power as the Western world was able to come in. There were so many orphanages, and they just seen these awful conditions that these children were raised in these orphanages, and these children were just having all of these developmental issues. And some scientists and others were able to go in and actually take some of these. They could only help so many kids and get them placed in families and give these families assistance. And what they noticed is they got these children placed in families, they developed so much more. It literally, the children who weren't touched in these orphanages where they didn't get picked up, it was just a warehouse for children. Their heads were smaller. Their brains physically didn't develop the size, besides all the little firing that goes on inside the brain didn't develop as well. There's many studies, not just there, but that suggest, and we innately know that we need that human connection and that human touch. And because of the situations in the world right now, it's cut off a lot of that. And so we need to step it up within our circle of trust and do even more. But what we found is we did the 10, and encourage people, try and make at least 10 different touches, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
10
6,
touches
7,
a day.
9, 10. But throughout the day, different, just a gesture. To where you have that human connection. There's a whole lot of communication and emotions that are communicated through touch, compassion, and concern that way. So,
yeah, caring. I want you to think about when you were dating. And for some, that's a long time ago. We keep going on dates.
What's the first step when you start dating?
Right.
To hold hands. And you remember that feeling. Now we kind of take it for granted because we do so much touching. But remember that amazing feeling, that warmth that would spread throughout your body when you hold the hand of that person that you're first getting to know and that you're interested in.
But we see our value. We are like, oh my gosh, we feel so good about ourselves when someone loves us. And as you're dating, you can't not touch each other.
Yeah, as it goes beyond hand holding, then you're just like
yeah, you've got your arms around each other. If you sit on the couch, you've got your legs over each other and your arms around each other and you're holding on. And I think it's funny because when we're dating, that's how we come across, is that we show our affection and our compassion and caring and love through touch.
Through touch, absolutely.
And when you have a baby, you want to hold the baby. Everybody wants to hold the baby. Everybody wants to have that touch. So I want you to think about this. In the workplace, we've got to find ways that are safe to still show this. In our homes, the kids are going to school. They are not running at recess and touching. They're not holding hands and skipping down, like little girls do, or playing physical contact sports.
Or boys punching each other.
Some of those are starting to come back. but very little. And they're using a lot of different safety, 6 feet apart. They're putting a lot of safety things in place, which are good to keep us from the pandemic, but we are causing emotional trauma to a lot of kids, a lot of people, adults.
So where we used to get touch from many different sources, a lot of those have shut down. It's more important that within your safe circle that you increase and be conscientious that you have the human connection.
Right, that pat on the back, that caressing a shoulder, that hug.
Even just with teenagers, they can get weirded out. Mom's hugging me,
Yeah,
you just kind of lean against them a little bit.
Find ways to add touch into your life. Every person needs 10 touches a day to thrive, and we're not getting it. So go out of your way to safely be able to share touch and to make sure that people feel like they belong.
And the belonging is the whole thing. It's one of your basic human needs.
Right.
Is that sense of belonging, and touch instills that sense of belonging more than ever. And just as Kris come home from that funeral and was telling me about, it's like those people didn't know where they belonged there with each other. It's like, oh, these are my old, I love these people, and it's just like they didn't know what to do. Okay.
And there were very few that actually touched or hugged. My mom and her girlfriends went out to lunch once a month since a long time ago. There was a few years when they had young babies, they didn't do this. But to see there was 2 left in the group of 6, which up until just a couple of years ago, all 6 were still meeting. And to see them, they were the only ones that hugged. And it was because they knew they had been to lunch with each other once a month and felt safe. And it was just this incredible thing to watch of how much they needed it. They're going home alone, but live by themselves, and yet they couldn't get it. They yearned for it, they wanted to do it, and they just couldn't. And I know they were trying to be safe. We've got to be sure to, think of those things. It made me want to hug my mom 100 times before I left yesterday because they need that.
It's a basic need that we sometimes forget, especially in the Western world, even without the pandemic and things going on. Back to studies a little bit. When studies have shown that non-human primates spend about 20 to 40% of their waking hours touching, grooming each other. It's just.
Are you talking about monkeys?
Yes. Monkey touch.
Monkey touch. So if you don't remember anything else today, don't even.
Grooming.
Go out there and see if you can do the 10 touches, not the grooming.
Don't look for stuff in their hair.
We love having you here with us. We enjoy putting these videos out and having fun with our community. If you haven't joined our community, you can join it right here, allthingspossible.biz. And there's free things there for you, and there's a lot of content. Join us again next time.
On All Things Possible.
On All Things Possible, because we don't know what we're going to tell you about next time. See you there.
That's going to be good, though. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.